welcome back to my channel, Behind the Star. I'm so excited to be having coffee or smoothies rather with this lady. You know guys, I deal with people in the industry, right? So I'm sitting with this prolific voice we hear on our radio airways, MC, multi-award winning broadcaster. Like, the list is endless, guys, but I don't want to spoil it for you because I want her to tell us all about her accolades, her life, her relationships, her faith, everything she's gone through, and everything that just makes her Kea Motlokwa. Please, guys, help me welcome this amazing lady. Kea, finally.
At some point, I felt like, are you talking about me?
Yes, you. Yes, you.
Finally.
Mrs. I'm always traveling, taking pictures of good food, and I'm always on this girl's timeline. And there's Ning Ning, she's an influencer, she's busy with brands. I'm like, hey, this one, she's busy. It's so great to finally see you. I feel like we talk more on Twitter.
Yes, we actually do.
And guys, you would think we've been friends for a long time, right? We've only ever met on Twitter. This is actually the first time we meet in person. Funny enough.
Yeah.
So,
but it feels like I've known you forever,
right?
And I think that's the beauty of social media as well. It's the sisterhood that we're able to create online, and how that just becomes something else. That there are a lot of people that you have relationships with online that you've never met in person, but they've been part of almost each and every one of your milestones.
Yeah.
And somehow, without thinking about it, you think, no, but that's my sister. I know that person. She's been there cheering for me from the beginning. So yeah, good to finally physically meet you.
Yeah, no. You know, some people you see the pictures and you see them in real life and you're like, hey. No. Your face matches the pictures. Yeah, guys, she's legit, hey? No, she's as pretty as she is in the pictures. So
that's good. Don't do that to me.
But we have to go back. Where's home? I don't think you're not from Joburg.
No, I am not.
Yeah.
I was actually born here, but I grew up in Limpopo in Venda. I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt. A very colorful childhood that I had in the villages. So I come from Venda. That's where I grew up. It's where I did my schooling from primary until matric, and then I moved full-time to Joburg in 2000, and I'll reveal my age. But I moved after matric. Yeah.
And so how do you then transition into this industry? Was it, okay, I always wanted to do sports, or was it, no, I want to actually be on radio or entertainment, or I want to be on a certain platform, then sports fell into place? Like, how did you navigate then your career?
I think there's like a very fun story that my grandmother used to tell when I started radio broadcasting. And everyone who would come to our house and had time, she would tell them, my grandchild, this one used to actually bring all her friends and they'd sit under the tree, and she would actually make them listen to Para FM, which is the Chivenda radio station. And I would actually make all my friends redo the stuff that was being done on radio. So I think radio sort of found me, but sport was really by chance, to be quite honest. It wasn't something that I sat and I said, I want to get into sports broadcasting. There was just someone who was a station manager for a station that I worked for, who was really fond of how versatile I was as a broadcaster. And he said to me, I think you'd actually do well in sports. And I'm like, I don't think so. She's like, you want to bet? If you don't get awards in the next 2 years or something, then you can leave it completely. So it was more of a bet. And I was like, okay, let's do this. You think I can do it? Okay, let's do it. And then I got into sports. And years later, I'm still very passionate. I took a bit of a break from sports broadcasting, but I'm still very passionate about sports.
Little did they know that you would actually win awards.
Yeah.
So had you bet real money?
No, there wasn't real money.
Had you bet real money?
If I had, if only. We win some really nice money, but no, we didn't put money down. And when I won the awards, I was like, damn it, I actually should have.
Ah.
You know? Yeah.
Come on, Kea. Come on. Vision in your face.
I couldn't think that far. I couldn't think that far.
I was so shocked to hear you speak 8 languages.
Yes, I
Fluent.
do.
I'm like, okay, guys, I speak Zulu. My mom gave me Pedi, but I can't speak Pedi, though I can hear it. So I speak Sotho, Tswana, whatever, mixed masala, and then there's English. Okay, you hear Afrikaans because we did it at school, but I'm like, what other language can I speak? Okay, you understand Xhosa, but I'm like, but I'm not actually fluent.
Yeah.
So, what languages? We only have 11 languages.
So I speak Tshivenda, right?
Yeah.
I speak Sepedi, which is Northern Sotho. I speak Southern Sotho as well. I speak Zulu. I speak Xhosa. I speak Tsonga. English, of course. And what's the other language?
And all fluent.
Afrikaans. Well, okay.
Most of them.
Most of them very fluent.
That is hectic.
Because I used to say I'm not fluent in Xhosa, right? And then one of the guys that I work with when I do my voiceovers gave me a Xhosa script the other time. And he's like, no, do this thing. And if it doesn't sound like you are actually a person who speaks that language every day, then we won't have to use it. And me being myself, I did it and it came out so good.
So crisp.
Yeah, so crisp.
Even the clicks and all.
You would say, hey, hey. You don't want me to get into it? You don't want me to get into it. But yeah, I'm very multilingual.
Do you still have your same childhood friends? Or do you find that the higher you climb up the ladder, the different your circle starts to look, and maybe a little bit smaller it's becoming?
The friends that I have now are the friends I met in high school. So I'm talking about 18, 19 years of friendship. Before that, no, we still talk on social media, but it's not like a friendship where I would say, oh, I'm still very close friends with this person, but we know each other, we still talk. When we are home, we hang out, but it's not really a close, tight-knit type of friendship. But I also feel like the older you get, the more you have friends from different parts of your life. And I appreciate that a lot about my circle. I've got friends that I met in high school, friends that I met in varsity, friends from my first job. I've got a friend, from the industry. I've got friends who are in the industry, but we met before we were both in the industry. So it's almost like as you evolve, your type of friendships also evolve as well.
That is hectic. And like now we look at your career, right?
Yeah.
So you are in radio, you are MC, you're an influencer, you're doing these travel blogs, you are... Sure, when I read your bio, I'm like, yo, can I even remember all of this? You're basically doing a lot of things. You have your hands in a lot of cookie jars right now. But for a person who's trying to expand their career, how do you find yourself being an influencer of this brand? How do you find yourself doing MC work? How do you find yourself still also balancing the radio stuff and your blog? And I think you were doing hair at some point. Are you still doing it?
I still do it. And clothes as well. I think it took me a while, but I got to a point where I decided I'm only going to do things that I'm really passionate about. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing things outside of myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm influencing and I'm working with a brand, it's either a travel campaign or a lifestyle campaign, which are things that I'm already doing.
Yeah.
I like the fact that a lot of stuff that I do fits perfectly into my everyday life. So it's almost like I don't have to go out of my way to actually make this thing work.
Or change who you are.
Change who I am, because I'm very much against the idea of chasing things and not expanding myself as an individual, because I'm very rooted in my spirit. Everything that I do has to sit well with my spirit. So if I do something or I work for a brand and it doesn't sit well with my spirit, I'm very quick to part ways and say I cannot do this anymore. So I think that's why it's so easy for me to sort of multitask and do so many things. It's simply because everything that I do is an extension of who I am, and I never feel like I am going out of myself or out of my way to actually make something work. So it's actually, it took me a while to actually get here because I have wanted to be in this space for the longest of time, and it was hard to manage,
But that's then what we call investing in yourself, self-development, plowing, and intentionally being one with yourself and dating yourself. You know, you've got to. Bishop T.D. Jakes says you must date yourself. You must know you first before the other person. So, I mean, the fact that you're at this point where you know yourself so well that nobody can tell you, that for me is success. I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Success for me is not a lot of things, honestly, Mbali. Success for me is being happy and being content and being aligned with your spirit as well, and what your spirit yearns the most. And there are a lot of external things that we go after, right? And we think they're gonna bring us happiness. But when it's all said and done, you know deep down in your spirit what makes you happy. And when you achieve that, for me, that's success. Being able to sit with yourself, look at yourself, and be completely pleased with who you are and where you are in life. For me, that is success. It's not really a lot of things. So I agree with you.
So how many siblings do you have? Because you mentioned that you grew up with your grandmother, right?
Yes.
So you didn't grow up with your parents?
No, I didn't grow up with my parents. My parents have always been in Gauteng because of work. I grew up with my grandmother. I'm a first of 4, and my younger brother.
I'm a last of 4.
I'm the first of 4, and my younger brother that comes after me is exactly 10 years younger than me. So for the longest of time, for 10 years of my life, or even more, because I mean, we can't count the years where he was still young and all of the other stuff. For the longest of time, I was the only child.
It was the Kea show.
Yeah, it was
the Kea show.
everything. And I was raised by my grandmother, so you can imagine how spoiled I was. You can imagine how the amount of freedom I was given to completely be myself. So yeah. So for the longest of time, I was alone and loved every moment. When that one came out, I was just like, and then you. And then after that, my parents just couldn't stop. Then there was another one. Then there was another one. I'm like, hi guys, no.
So the gap between the others is much.
The gap between the second and the third born is 2 years. The gap between the third and the last is 6 years. Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, so it's not like that because the gap between firstborn and me is 10 years. But everybody else, so my parents planned that there's a 4-year gap between all my siblings. So I have 3 older brothers, so there's like 4. And then when my brother was 1, I just came out of nowhere. So I was the anomaly. I was just...
You were out of the blue child. You were like, you thought Utloba last born. Where? Not happening.
So... I see you've got a very beautiful ring on your finger.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
This is the ring gang, guys.
By the way.
This is the ring gang.
Oh man.
So please get your own, okay?
You're going to make me cry. Like, I'm literally holding back my tears. But at some point, I won't be able to hold them back anymore.
This is Behind the Star. It's all about authenticity. And we want to know who Kea is.
Yeah.
Not the voiceover script. Ke mang. Okay, your thing is ke monkey. Ke monkey. Ke monkey. Ke o lang antwali mamina. Ke o.
Don't take it there. Don't take it there. Don't take it there.
Okay, so I see you've got a very beautiful ring on the finger.
The finger is beautiful too.
And the finger is very beautiful too. Take us through that journey of meeting your husband and I mean just the impact he's had on your life.
When I met him, I had just gotten out of a relationship, right? A very toxic relationship.
How long?
We had dated the first time, then we broke up, then we got back together. So it hadn't been that long of us having gotten back together. So after I got out of that relationship, that's when I met my husband. So it's a random Saturday, it's a random Sunday morning. There was an event the night before where I was doing some behind the scenes stuff. It was like an award ceremony and he was performing there because he's an artist, right? And the following day on the Sunday, I wake up, I'm hungover. So I call my friend, Kintabi. So I'm like, Kintabi, because I was training and mentoring this friend of mine. So I'm like, Kintabi, are you done at work? Let's go out for breakfast. So we go out for breakfast. It's myself, Kintabi, and my other friend, Kat. So we go to this place, Kea It's a hotel. And I was always at that place. So we get there. When we get there at the parking lot, there's like a group of guys. There's one guy that I know. There are actually two guys that I know in the group. So I greet those guys. Hello, hi, how you guys doing? You know, me being myself. And then we moved to the place where we were eating. Then I had to leave to go drop off one of my friends. When I came back, I'm driving alone. I've got my sunroof open. I've got my windows open. And I'm playing Turn Your Lights Down Low. You know that song, right?
Oh, yeah.
So as I pull into the parking lot, he is actually sitting behind his car. So I can't see him. He's sitting behind his car with his friend. So I just hear voices singing along to the song. So I'm like, hey, it's again, boys will always be boys. So I go in and then I go to the bathroom. When I left the bathroom, there's like guys sitting, the guys are now sitting where we were sitting. As I walk in, he was actually sitting on a, because this is a very interesting story for me to tell. He's sitting on a sunbed, right? He's got a towel over his head. So as I walk into the poolside, there's a gate. As I walk into that gate, he opens the thing like this and he says, hello, gorgeous.
Are you wearing a bikini?
No, I wasn't.
No,
I was wearing jeans. The ones that had flowers.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing jeans. So he says, hello, gorgeous. I don't look at him. It's like, hey, 5 roses.
Yo,
because that's what they used to call those jeans with the flowers. 5 roses. You're so beautiful. I'm like, thank you. It's like, it's a moyena. And then eventually they come join us and we start having conversations. And he keeps saying, I'm going to marry this girl.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to marry this girl. And I didn't even take it serious. And then from there we started talking a lot. The night was very long because we ended up driving to Zanin and coming back and so then we started talking. And when we started talking on the phone, we just couldn't stop. Like, we were just so smitten. Oh my God, my face.
She's still flashing. How many years later?
4 years later.
Wow. So this is beautiful.
So we just didn't stop talking. We got obsessed with each other. That same year he came to Motlokwa and he spent Christmas with me. So he cancelled all his gigs this side and actually took only gigs in Limpopo. And he's like, I want to spend Christmas with you. I thought he was joking. He actually came through and we spent that whole festive season together, and from there we just got obsessed with each other. And for me, I think the most important part of our story is that when I met him, I was nearing the end of my breast cancer treatment. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had been, going through the treatment and radiation and everything for about a year and a half before we met. So when we met, I was nearing the end of it all. And he moved his entire life he lived in Pretoria, so he moved his entire life from Pretoria to Polokwane just to save my life. Because I lived alone. I didn't have anybody to take care of me. I would have to drive myself to the hospital in the middle of the night when I'm in pain. After radiation, I'd have to get like a cab and someone to come and actually take me home. So after he went to the doctor with me once, he decided he's gonna move his entire life so that my life become a little bit more easier. And that's something that I don't know, it always just gets to me that somebody can be that selfless, that someone can literally just put their careers on hold, they can put their lives on hold, they can pack away their lives. in a car and leave things that they've worked so hard for to save the life of somebody they absolutely love.
I feel like these things must come a little bit closer because we might just need these. It is so beautiful.
So he saved my life, and it's been such a beautiful journey. I had never in my entire life met somebody who was that selfless, someone who could look beyond themselves and could prioritize someone else's health and well-being over themselves, and I think I'll always be grateful to him for that.
I can imagine, because you're going through that treatment, you're not even married, and this guy wants to pack up his life for you. But in his head, he's like, you know what, this girl is the one.
Yeah.
She doesn't know it yet, but she is going to be my wife. And the thing is, you are going through treatments, you probably don't even feel your best. You don't even feel like you look attractive. You feel like, you know what, like when you look at the mirror, it doesn't reflect who you used to be, and you maybe even feel like a bit insecure, and you wonder, what is this guy still doing here?
And you're also going through a lot of transitions in your life, because my parents are this side, everyone is this side. I didn't have a lot of close friends that side, and there are just certain things that you can't talk to everybody about. So you're literally going through this thing alone. You feel like, why can't people see that I'm struggling? Why can't people see that I'm okay? And being the type of person that I am, or the type of personality that I am, it's very difficult for people to navigate around me when I'm not feeling my best. Because I'm usually the person that brings life into a room, I am that type of a person. So when I'm going through something that life-changing, even people that really care about me don't know how to navigate through me in that time. And for him to have not known me for that long, to have not understood the background of my illness, to have not even known if I'm gonna live or die. But he sat by himself and he decided, I have to do this.
So when did you get married?
I got married last year. We got engaged in November 2019, and we did the whole lobola thing at the beginning of last year before the lockdown. And so we haven't done the actual
I'm still going to do it.
Yes, we definitely have to do it. My husband comes from a part of Limpopo called Skukune. They do not compromise.
Oh my goodness.
You know, like on social media when you see those videos about step and the drama and the women with the white gloves.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they want that whole thing.
So even if it's 5 years from now, it has to be ticked off the list.
It has to happen. And it's not about me, so it's fine. I get it.
When you speak about your story with your husband, I can only think, wow, this is God. Because, one day when we have another coffee conversation, I'll tell you about how I met my husband, and so I can only think, this is God, and he's helping you through this, and then you feel like, okay, you know what, I've overcome a big hurdle. Now this guy proposes, so now it's like the light at the end of the tunnel, the silver lining. But then it's as if God was now preparing you for another major break and a heartbreaking loss that you went through. Because I remember looking at G Sports Awards, I'm like, she's so cute in her dress, and you were that presenter with the belly, and she looked so beautiful. And it was so beautiful, firstly, to see a company like G Sport, like Bokes, want to put a host who was pregnant, right? And I was like, that is beautiful. And still rock it, and still look as beautiful, and not even feel like, these girls who with their figures and stuff, they look better than me. But she was absolutely gorgeous,
and that was so liberating for me as an individual, as a woman, and as a broadcaster as well, because I had a lot of conversations with Cass and her team building up to the actual awards, and one of the things that really stood out for me in one of our conversations was the fact that just because you are with child doesn't mean you are incapable, or just because you're pregnant doesn't necessarily mean that your skills now decrease or you are unable to do the things that you were able to do if you're not pregnant. And for me, that was very important, because for the longest of time, I mean, we've watched you breaking boundaries as well, which was something that, to be quite honest, Mali, we all know the industry, and once you're pregnant, you're sort of like written off.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've chosen a path to be a parent. You can't be a great mother and be a great broadcaster all at the same time, and that's such nonsense, to be quite honest.
It
and
is.
To be able to see institutions and channels and big companies that are breaking that narrative, it's actually so liberating and so freeing, and such, the type of freedom that we have yearned for so long as female broadcasters, especially in the sporting industry, because it's almost like they're trying to find the smallest things to limit you as a woman, as a female broadcaster. So when that happened for me, I was like, if God is going to use me through this, I am all in.
I was so shocked when I came across your tweet, and I'm like, no, this cannot be. Let me scroll down her timeline. What is going on? And then I find out you lost your baby. And I mean, take us through that.
It's still quite fresh, because it's about 4 months now, or 3 months actually, and it's still such a difficult thing to process, to be quite honest with you, but somehow, I don't even know how to put it, but somehow you sort of get to a point where you understand the saying that God will never give you something He didn't prepare you for. And He prepares us in so many ways without us being aware, that when trauma hits, you are able to handle it better than you actually thought you would. So we were expecting our first son, Lehumo, and he came a bit early, and he came with some complications. I had a very seamless pregnancy. At some point I was worried, because I'm like, guys, why am I not going through everything that everybody warned me against? Because the moment people find out that you're expecting, everybody's just telling you, wait until you can't move anymore, wait until your back hurts, wait until your feet are swollen, wait until this and that. And none of that happened in the more than 8 months that I carried my son. So he came early, and after delivery, first of all, he was a miracle child. He's a miracle child because due to my health issues, between the fibroids and the cancer and everything that I had gone through, I had actually been ruled out of having kids. And God was like, not until I say so. So we got pregnant. I had a very seamless pregnancy. Went in for delivery, which had to be an emergency C-section. We both came out alive. So during the delivery, they found that I had 6 fibroids, the size of neck to weeks. So you can imagine how that also goes to
and they never picked this up in your regular scans. Okay, so you're delivering, they find you've got 6 fibroids, and then what?
And then my baby and I both come out alive of that delivery, which medically was never supposed to happen. And then fine, he's okay. 2 days after he was born, actually before I get into the part of what happened with him, is that the day after I gave birth, I had a minor stroke because I had lost a lot of blood. So I I ended up in ICU for a full day being monitored. And then I got discharged, and obviously because he was born preterm, he had to stay behind in NICU. So here I am one day on a Saturday. I am at home with my mom, and I get a call from the hospital. So they're like, no, we need you to come to the hospital as soon as you possibly can. I'm like, what's wrong? And they're like, no, the baby, don't worry, the baby is okay, he's here, he's alive. We just need you to come and sign consent form because he has to go in for surgery. And I'm like,
is your heart not racing?
So little. The first thing I'm thinking is how tiny his body is and how, they have to open him up already, and he is so tiny. Like that's the thing that's in my head at that moment. He is so tiny.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean he has to go in for surgery? And I get there, they tell us no, he has to go in for surgery. It's something that they experience quite a lot with kids that are born preterm, and therefore I shouldn't worry about it. And I'm going through all of this alone because they're not allowing more than 2 people at the hospital because of COVID, and especially the fact that it's NICU, so the children that are there are very fragile. So I can't go in with my husband, I can't go in with my mom, I can't go in. I have to walk the long passages of the hospital by myself with 20 million things running through my head.
Yeah.
I get there, he's okay, I see him, I sign the consent forms, and I go back home. And then they take him in for surgery the following day, and after surgery they call us. They say, you need to come to the hospital as soon as you possibly can. I'm like, what do you mean? What happened? They're like, no, we did the surgery, we went in, and but he's alive. Don't worry about it, he's alive. So he's still fighting, but we found that the problem is bigger than we anticipated. So I'm like, can I come in with my husband? When they said yes, that's when I knew that something is not right, because they were not allowing other people to come in. So we go into the hospital, and they literally set us down to tell us there's nothing they can do to save him. And and the pediatric surgeon that actually that operated on him was actually in tears when she was telling us that. She said,
but what was the problem?
Nothing we can do. So he had a vaginal atresia, which is his small intestine didn't develop. But here's the miracle about it. Intestines of children develop in the first trimester, or the majority of it. I carried my son for 3 trimesters, and he survived.
So that's why he wasn't passing stools.
Yeah, after he was born. But the biggest miracle of it all is that how does he grow and become so big when there's no food that's going into his system? Why was I not throwing up? Because whatever was going into him was supposed to come out, How did he survive that? And how did he survive fighting off 6 fibroids in the same space? He was born alive. And after they told us that there's nothing they can do to save him, they told us he probably has 2 more days left, and he went on to live for 10 more days. Not 2, 10 more days, but 10. Like, when I think about it, and I think that's why for me it's painful, but beyond the pain, there is the presence of God that you see in every single thing that happened in that entire process. They didn't expect him to live beyond 2 days after the surgery, but he held on for 10 more days, and he never cried. He wasn't eating. He never cried. Every time we'd go see him, he'd hold on to our fingers like this. and he'd smile. All he did was smile and sleep. Like, that's all he did. And so it's that. And then after 10 days, after he had been, he passed away 2 years, 2 weeks, after he was born. So that's exactly 14 days of survival without food, without eating, without anything going into his stomach. And he was fighting, and he was strong. Like, you would feel it when he grabs my finger, that this child is strong. But there was something about him that was beyond this world. I don't know if that makes any sense, but he wasn't a worldly person. For me, I feel like I carried a spirit. I feel like I birthed an actual angel. I don't know if that even makes sense, but that's how I feel, because it never felt like, it explains why my pregnancy was so different from everyone else that I've ever encountered who had been pregnant. Because I was not carrying somebody who belongs to this world. I was carrying somebody that God brought into this world to break a lot of norms and a lot of curses and a lot of things that probably had been happening in our lives. And he took him back. But all the memories I have, all the memories we have of him are amazing memories. Every time I close my eyes and I think of him, I see him smiling, you know. And yeah, that hit us so hard. And when something like that happens, it changes everything about who you are as a person. It changes everything about your heart. It changes everything about what's important. And I remember my husband saying that everything that we thought mattered doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. How's your faith now? Because, you know, loss has a way of, grieving has a way of bringing people together or tear them apart. And it just seems like your husband, who already has been such a supportive figure in your life, it just seems as though you guys just drew even closer together.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's too soon to ask, but are you still hoping to have kids?
I don't know. It's not something we've spoken about. It's not something I have thought of.
Yeah.
And I think because I come from a situation where I had been told I probably will never have kids, I believe that everything happens by God's will. It's not for me to plan. It's not for me to think of. It's not for me to say I want to. It's for God to decide what it is that happens with us, you know. And I'm so glad that I married somebody who is the way he is, because whether it happens again or it doesn't happen again, I don't think it will ever change who we are to each other, you know. And that's the most important thing, that there is no pressure, that there is no, my womanhood to him can't be determined by how many kids I give him, you know. So yeah, it's been
Wow.
It's been hectic. It's been hectic, like very, very hectic. And I mean, grief is such a weird thing, because one day you're okay and the next day you don't want to get out of bed, you know. Other days you understand why it happened. And the other day you wake up and you ask God why, you know. But we, not only have my husband and I become a lot more closer, I think even what happened has done a lot for our families as well. And it's almost like the baby had come here to fix everything that had been broken. You know, with both our sides, we've become a lot more closer. and I mean, I didn't grow up in a household where you were forced to pray every day and all of these other things and the whole shebang. But in terms of spirituality, it has done a lot for us as a family. For my parents' household, prayer is like such a thing. It's I don't even know how to explain it because I have it in my head, but I can't articulate it well. But it's done so much for our families as well. That's why we actually believe that he wasn't a worldly person. He was actually an angel that had come to tlhakantsha dilo, and make sure that by the time he leaves, everybody is just in a better place, mentally, emotionally, and any other alif you can think of.
Yeah, that is incredible. With the 30 seconds we have left.
Wow.
I mean, it's a new year. It's always an opportunity for a fresh start. What's on the cards for you this year? Whether it's career, whether the focus is family, whether the focus is mentorship.
I was ready to get back into radio, but I've turned down a couple of jobs. So I think one thing for certain that I really want to do this year is definitely a podcast.
Yeah.
I've got a very interesting and very exciting concept, which I can't wait to actually execute.
As long as I get an invitation, then I'm okay.
You definitely are going to get one. So it's that. It's about podcast. I really want to continue, sort of like linking everything that I do to my brand. And I like the start that I gave myself last year in terms of my career. And I think I just want to continue.
Yeah.
I just want to continue in the same structure and just continue doing things that I really enjoy, that I truly love, that are truly me as well. So yeah, it's about it.
No.
But watch the space.
Guys, no, I need to give you a hug. No.
Yeah, during COVID.
Okay, COVID hug. She's gonna hug me. But we understand COVID hug.
No, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much for having me, though.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. And it was absolutely incredible. Condolences for your loss. But we thank God that you are alive, you are healthy, and that through all of this that you've gone through, you've become a much stronger person. And there's nothing we can ask. There's nothing better we can ask.
Yeah. And I think more than anything, for me, I always think, when I think about the issue of the baby, I always think about how he was going to have one life to live. And we have no idea what kind of life that was going to be, we have an opportunity to have other children if we want to, but we were never going to be able to give him another life. One thing for certain is that we would have never wanted our child to live a life of pain, because it's not pleasing to anyone to have somebody physically here when their life is just one big tragedy or one big pain, which you will not be able to feel even as a mother. You can feel your pain as a mother that my child is going through certain things. And with the type of condition that he had, I don't think he was going to have a normal life, which is also unfair for us to want to hold on for our own physical, selfish reasons when we can release him to go and be an angel and live a life free of pain. And I think that's really what makes me feel a lot more better,
So guys, this is where we're gonna leave it for today. We've had tissue, smoothies, coffee, tears. There's nothing else left, but what an incredible story. And I'm sure you can agree with me, what an incredible human being. Thank you so much, Kea, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure to have you, and hopefully we'll have her again. So guys, till next time, cheers.